Minji pressed her forehead against the cold viewing window and watched the stars drift past. 3 months at the Galactic Fellowship Academy, and she still felt like an outsider. Not because anyone was cruel to her exactly. It was worse than that. They were afraid. The Academy floated in neutral space, a massive station where hundreds of alien species came to learn together. Each section had different gravity, different air, different everything. The human section sat at the far end of the station, where the gravity was so strong that most other students refused to visit. They said it felt like wearing weights on every limb. She turned away from the window and walked toward the central commons. Her muscles moved easily in the heavy gravity that exhausted everyone else. That was part of the problem. Humans looked soft and weak compared to most species here, but they came from Earth. A Class 12 death world, the highest danger rating. When Minji entered the commons, conversations died down. A group of Valerians, insect-like beings with delicate bodies, shifted away from her path. She tried to smile at them, but they looked terrified. One of them whispered something to the others in their clicking language. Only one Valerian ever talked to her. His name was Hyun, and right now he sat alone at a far table, his thin arms wrapped around a datapad. Minji walked over and sat down across from him. "Hi, Hyun," she said softly. He jumped slightly, then relaxed when he saw it was her. "Hello, Minji, how are you today?" "Same as always." "Scary, apparently." She sighed and pulled out her own datapad. "What are you studying?" "Survival protocols." "We have an exam next week." Hyun's voice always had a nervous edge to it. His species came from a peaceful garden world where the biggest predator was the size of a house cat. Everything about the wider galaxy frightened him. A shadow fell across their table. Minji looked up to see Taeyang standing there with 2 of his friends. He was Kixian, an aquatic species that breathed through special masks when outside water. His scales shimmered blue and green under the station lights. "The Death Worlder sits with the weakest species in the academy," Taeyang said, his voice bubbling through his breathing mask. "How fitting. 2 primitives together." "Leave us alone, Taeyang," Hyun said quietly. "Why? Is the human going to hurt me?" "Oh wait, I forgot. Humans are supposed to be terrifying," Taeyang laughed. "You know what I heard? Earth has storms that can destroy entire cities, and animals that hunt in packs and eat things alive. What kind of nightmare world produces a species like that?" Minji kept her voice calm. "The kind of world that teaches you to survive. That's all. Survive." Taeyang leaned closer. "Civilized species don't need to survive. We evolved past that. We build, we create, we think. You people are just violent apes who got lucky enough to figure out space travel." Before Minji could respond, a stern voice cut through the commons. "That's enough, Taeyang." Professor Dalvik approached their table. He was a thornback, an ancient species covered in rocky armor plates. He taught survival protocols and treated all students equally, which Minji appreciated. "Return to your table," Professor Dalvik said. Now, Taeyang and his friends left, still snickering. The professor watched them go, then turned to Minji and Hyun. "Don't let him bother you. Fear makes people cruel." He paused. "Actually, I'm glad I found you both. I have an announcement to make in class tomorrow, but I wanted to give you advance notice. The Galactic Peacekeepers are offering a special opportunity." Minji's interest sparked. "What kind of opportunity?" "A training mission to Research Station Kilos 9. It's an asteroid facility where they study dangerous species and train for threat assessment. They've invited Academy students to observe their work. It's completely safe, heavily guarded, and an excellent learning experience. Will students be afraid to go if I volunteer?" Minji asked. Professor Dalvik's expression softened. "Probably. But that's their problem, not yours. You have as much right to learn as anyone here. More importantly, you have the mindset for it. Most students here come from safe worlds. They've never faced real danger. You understand threat assessment in a way they don't." After the professor left, Hyun turned to Minji. "Are you going to volunteer?" "Yes, are you?" Hyun's whole body trembled slightly. "I want to. But I'm scared." "That's okay. Being scared doesn't mean you shouldn't do something. It just means you have to be brave." Minji smiled at him. "Come with me. I'll make sure you're safe." The next day in class, Professor Dalvik announced the mission. 20 students would be selected from volunteers. Minji's hand shot up immediately. Whispers filled the room. A few students who had been raising their hands slowly lowered them. Hyun's hand shook as he raised it. Minji gave him an encouraging nod. Taeyang stood up dramatically. "I volunteer as well. Someone needs to make sure the Death Worlder doesn't eat anyone." Several students laughed. Minji ignored them. She was used to the jokes by now. They always had the same theme. Humans were violent, dangerous, unpredictable. Never mind that she'd never hurt anyone in her life. Professor Dalvik selected his volunteers and dismissed the class. As students filed out, Minji heard fragments of conversation. "Can you believe she volunteered? My pod mate said humans can survive injuries that would kill us instantly. I heard they have adrenaline that makes them go crazy with strength. Why do they even let Death Worlders into the academy?" Minji walked faster, pretending she didn't hear. Hyun hurried to keep up with her. "They don't understand," he said quietly. "I've been researching Earth since we became friends. Your planet is amazing and terrifying. Active volcanoes, extreme weather, predators everywhere. And your species just adapted to all of it. It's just home," Minji said. "You don't think about how dangerous something is when you grow up with it. That's what makes you different. You and I see danger very differently. When I see a threat, every instinct tells me to hide. When you see a threat, what do you feel?" Minji considered the question. "I feel scared. But I also start thinking about solutions, how to avoid it, how to survive it, how to stop it if I have to. Fear doesn't mean freeze for humans. It means think faster." They reached the human section of the station. The gravity increased with each step. Hyun struggled to keep walking, his exoskeleton straining. "You should go back," Minji said. "This gravity is too hard on you. I wanted to make sure you were okay after what Taiyang said. I'm fine. I've heard worse," she smiled. "Thanks for being my friend, Hyun. You're the only one here who's given me a chance. You're the only one who doesn't treat me like I'm useless because I'm from a safe world. We're both outsiders, I think. Just different kinds." After Hyun left, Minji entered her quarters. They were sparse and functional. A sleeping pod, a study area, a small bathroom. She sat at her desk and pulled up information about Research Station Kilos 9. The station housed 47 dangerous specimens from across the galaxy. Everything from viral organisms to massive predators. All safely contained behind multiple layers of security. The tour would be educational and completely safe. Minji read through the threat assessments. Level 3 to Level 9 entities. Some were mindless and instinctive. Others were intelligent. All were deadly in their own ways. She thought about what Professor Dalvik had said. Most students here had never faced real danger. Their worlds were peaceful, controlled, safe. They came to the academy to learn about the wider galaxy from a position of comfort. Minji came from a world that tried to kill humans every day. Weather that could freeze or cook them. Animals that saw them as food. Plants that were poisonous. Microscopic organisms that caused disease. Earth was beautiful and terrible, and humanity had survived it all through stubbornness and intelligence. Maybe that's why the other students feared her. Not because humans were violent, but because they came from a place where violence was normal, where danger was every day, where survival wasn't guaranteed. She closed the datapad and looked at a picture she kept on her desk. Her family back on Earth, standing in front of mountains. Her little brother was laughing. Her parents looked happy. She missed them terribly. "I'll make you proud," she whispered to the picture. "I'll show them that humans belong here too." In 3 days, she would board the transport to Kilos 9. She would face whatever dangerous creatures the galaxy had to offer, and she would prove that being from a death world didn't make you a monster. It just made you a survivor. The transport ship hummed through space, carrying 20 nervous students toward Research Station Kalos 9. Minji sat near a window, watching the asteroid grow larger as they approached. It looked like any other rock floating in space, but inside it held some of the galaxy's most dangerous creatures. She glanced around the passenger cabin. Most students sat in small groups with their own species. The Valerians clustered together, their antennae twitching anxiously. The Chixians stayed in their water-filled seats, their breathing masks bubbling. A group of Fenith, small furry beings with large eyes, whispered to each other constantly. Hyun sat next to Minji, though the effort of staying in his seat showed on his face. The transport used standard galactic gravity, which was lighter than human normal but still uncomfortable for his species. "How are you feeling?" Minji asked him quietly. "Nervous, excited, terrified." Hyun's voice shook slightly. "Mostly terrified, if I'm honest. Did you see the species list they sent us? Some of those things have killed dozens of trained soldiers. They're all locked up safely. We're just observing. I know. But still." He paused. "Aren't you scared at all?" Minji thought about it. A little. But I'm more curious than scared. I want to see what the galaxy considers dangerous. A Fenith student in front of them turned around, her large eyes blinking. You want to see the dangerous things? Why, to learn, Minji said simply. How can you avoid danger if you don't understand it? The Fenith shuddered and turned back around. Minji heard her whisper to her friend, Deathworlders are so strange. Across the cabin, Taeyang sat with his Qixian friends. He was talking loudly, making sure everyone could hear. I still don't understand why they let the human come. What if she goes crazy? Everyone knows Deathworlders are unstable. All that adrenaline and aggression. One of his friends laughed. Maybe she'll try to fight one of the specimens. That would be entertaining. Minji ignored them. She'd learned that responding only made things worse. Instead, she pulled out her datapad and reviewed the station information again. Research Station Kilos 9 had been built 15 years ago. It served as a training facility for galactic peacekeepers and a research center for xenobiology. The specimens inside came from raids on illegal collectors, rescue operations from dying worlds, and scientific expeditions gone wrong. Each creature was contained in a specialized cell designed for its specific biology. Quantum locks, force fields, redundant security systems. The station commander had assured Professor Dalvik that no specimen had ever escaped. The transport shuddered slightly as it entered the asteroid's docking bay. Through the window, Minji could see the station's interior. Smooth metal walls, bright lights, armed guards moving in formation. Everything looked professional and secure. They docked with a soft thump. The cabin door opened and a tall figure entered. He wore the dark uniform of a peacekeeper commander, and his body was covered in thick scales and old scars. A Kryn, one of the warrior species. Welcome to Research Station Kalos 9, he said, his voice deep and commanding. I am Commander Sivak. I'll be your guide today. Before we begin, I need to make the safety protocols clear. You will stay with the group at all times. You will not touch anything without permission. You will follow my instructions immediately. Understood? Everyone nodded. Commander Sivak's eyes swept across the students and stopped briefly on Minji. His expression didn't change, but she saw the flicker of recognition. He knew what she was. They filed off the transport and into a waiting area. The station was cold and sterile, all function with no decoration. Guards stood at every intersection, heavily armed. Cameras covered every angle. This station houses 47 specimens, Commander Sivak continued as he led them down a corridor. They range from threat level 3 to level 9. Today you'll observe how we assess, contain, and study these entities. The tour is completely safe. We've never had a security failure. He led them to the first observation room. Through a thick window of reinforced glass, they could see a containment cell. Inside was a mass of crystalline structures that pulsed with soft light. This is a crystalline swarm, Commander Sivak explained. Threat level 4. It consumed an entire colony station before we contained it. The crystals can merge with any silicon-based material and convert it into more of itself. In the right environment, it's nearly unstoppable. The students pressed closer to the window. Minji watched the crystals shift and reform, creating patterns that almost looked deliberate. It was beautiful in a strange way. How did you stop it? Someone asked. We didn't stop it. We starved it. This cell contains no silicon compounds. Without material to convert, it's harmless. Commander Sivak moved to the next window. This is much more dangerous. The next cell was dark except for a single light in the center. Something moved in the shadows, too fast to see clearly. When it passed through the light, the students gasped. It looked like it was made of smoke and teeth. A shadow stalker, threat level 7. It exists partially outside normal space, which makes it nearly impossible to hit with conventional weapons. It killed 12 researchers before we developed a containment field that locks it in our dimension. They moved through the station, viewing specimen after specimen, a telepathic predator that had driven an entire research team insane, a viral shapeshifter that could mimic any organic form, a swarm of nanomachines that consumed metal, each one more terrifying than the last. Most students looked increasingly uncomfortable. Several Fenith were crying quietly. Even Taeyang had stopped making jokes. Only Minji seemed calm, taking notes on her datapad. You're not scared? Hyun whispered to her. They're all contained. What's scary is thinking about them loose. Minji paused. Actually, some of them remind me of things from Earth. What? How would that crystalline swarm? We have a fungus that does something similar. It takes over insects and turns them into zombies that spread more fungus. The Shadow Stalker moves like a leopard hunting at night. Humans learned to deal with invisible predators a long time ago. Hyun stared at her. Your planet is horrifying. It's home, Minji said with a small smile. Commander Sivak led them deeper into the station. The corridors here were more secure, with multiple checkpoints. We're now entering maximum security wing. The specimens here are threat level 8 and above. Some of them are intelligent. Some are nearly indestructible. All of them are extremely dangerous. As they walked, Minji noticed something odd. One of the security guards they passed looked wrong somehow. He was sweating heavily even though the station was cool. His hands shook slightly. His eyes moved too quickly, like he was watching for something. She almost mentioned it to Commander Sivak, but they'd already moved past. They stopped at another observation window. This cell was huge, at least 20 meters across. Inside was a creature that made everyone take a step back. It was roughly humanoid, but wrong in every way. Too many joints, limbs that ended in blade-like points, a head covered in sensory organs, armor plating that looked like it could stop anything. This is a Veshral, Commander Sivak said quietly. Threat level 10, the highest classification. The students were silent. Even through the thick glass and multiple force fields, the creature radiated danger. It moved with liquid grace, testing the walls of its cell with methodical precision. Where did it come from? Minji asked. Commander Sivak looked at her with something like respect. A Class 14 death world, even more extreme than Earth. The Veshral is an apex predator from a planet where everything is trying to kill everything else. It's intelligent, fast, and produces a biological fear response in most species. Just being near one causes paralysis in prey animals. How many has this one killed? 23 trained peacekeepers across 3 facilities. No one has survived an encounter with a Veshral unarmed. As if it heard them, the creature stopped moving and turned toward the window, its sensory organs focused on the students. Several of them stumbled backward. The Feneth students fainted. Minji felt it then, a wave of primal fear that hit her nervous system like ice water. Every instinct screamed at her to run. But she'd felt similar things before. In the Australian outback when she'd stumbled across a saltwater crocodile. Earth had taught her that freezing in fear got you killed. She held the Veshral's gaze and didn't look away. Commander Sivak's communicator suddenly chirped. He glanced at it and his expression darkened. He read the message twice, then looked up at his assistant. Sir? The assistant asked nothing. Just a systems check. But Minji heard the lie in his voice. Something was wrong. Commander Sivak forced a smile. That concludes the dangerous specimens section. Let's return to the briefing room for the lights went out. Emergency red lighting kicked in a second later. And then the alarm started screaming. The alarm was deafening. Red lights pulsed through the corridors like a heartbeat. Commander Sivak's communicator exploded with voices, all shouting at once. He listened for 3 seconds and his face went pale beneath his scales. Everyone stay calm, he said. But his voice had lost its commanding tone. We have a situation. What kind of situation? Taeyang's voice was high-pitched with fear. Commander Sivak touched his communicator again. Security Chief, report. How many containment fields are down? He listened, and whatever he heard made him close his eyes. Copy that. Initiating emergency protocols. Commander. Minji stepped forward. What happened? He looked at her, then at the other students. They deserve to know. We've had a catastrophic system failure in maximum security wing. Multiple containment fields are dropping. Most of the specimens are still secured, but... He paused. The Veshral is loose. For a moment, no one moved. Then chaos erupted. Students started screaming. One of the Kixians collapsed, his breathing mask malfunctioning from stress. The remaining Feneth students huddled together, making high-pitched distress calls. Even Hyun's exoskeleton locked up, his body's automatic fear response. We need to evacuate immediately, Commander Sivak said. Follow me to the docking bay. He led them back the way they'd come, moving fast. The students stumbled after him, some of them crying. Minji helped Hyun walk, his legs barely responding. It's okay, she told him, though her own heart was racing. We just need to get to the ship. The Veshral, Hyun whispered. Minji, you saw it. That thing will kill us all. Not if we're smart. Come on, keep moving. They reached an intersection and Commander Sivak stopped suddenly. His communicator crackled. Commander, the Veshral is heading toward Section 7. That's between you and the docking bay. You need to find another route. There is no other route, Sivak said quietly. More shouting came through the communicator, sounds of weapons fire, then screaming, then silence. Commander Sivak made a decision. This way. There's a secure classroom on this level. We'll shelter there and wait for backup. How long will backup take? Minji asked. 7 hours. The nearest peacekeeper ship is in the next system. 7 hours. Locked in a room with a threat level 10 predator hunting them. The other students didn't seem to realize how bad that was yet. They were too busy panicking about the immediate danger. The classroom was at the end of a long corridor. Commander Sivak used his command codes to unlock it, then ushered everyone inside. The room was designed for emergencies with reinforced walls and a heavy door. Once everyone was in, the door sealed with a heavy thunk. We're safe here, Commander Sivak said. The door is reinforced alloy. Nothing can get through it. But even as he said it, Minji saw doubt in his eyes. She'd seen the Veshral. She'd seen how it moved, how it tested its cell walls. It was intelligent and patient. It wouldn't give up easily. The classroom had basic supplies: water, emergency rations, medical kits. There were also monitors showing security feeds from around the station. Commander Sivak pulled up the cameras and started tracking the Veshral's movements. They watched on the screens as it moved through the corridors. It was even more terrifying in motion than it had been in its cell. It flowed like liquid, its bladed limbs finding purchase on walls and ceiling. It moved with purpose, testing doors, examining rooms, hunting. One camera showed 2 security guards trying to stop it. They had plasma rifles, military-grade armor, years of training. The Veshral killed them in seconds. It didn't even slow down. Several students vomited. Taeyang was crying. We're going to die. It's going to find us and we're going to die. Shut up, Commander Sivak snapped. Panicking won't help. But panic had already taken hold. The biological fear response was overwhelming. Minji could feel it herself, a primal terror that made her hands shake. But Earth had taught her something important about fear. You could be terrified and still think clearly. The two didn't have to cancel each other out. She studied the security feeds, watching how the Veshral moved. It was systematic. It checked each room methodically, learning the station's layout. It was smart. Too smart. It's hunting us specifically, she said quietly. Commander Sivak looked at her sharply. What makes you say that? Watch its pattern. It's moving toward the areas where it detected the most life signs. It knows we're here somewhere and it's searching. She's right, Sivak said after watching for another minute. It's an apex predator. This is what it evolved to do. How do we stop it? Hyun asked, his voice barely a whisper. We don't. We hide and wait for rescue. But Minji kept watching the screens. The Veshral was getting closer, room by room, corridor by corridor, and as it got closer, the fear response intensified. She could see it affecting everyone in the room. Hyun had gone completely still, his exoskeleton locked up. The Fenith students had lost consciousness. Even the Kixians were showing signs of distress, their breathing erratic. Taeyang stared at the screens with wide eyes, his whole body trembling. Commander Sivak was affected too, though he hid it better. His hands shook slightly as he checked his weapon. He'd been in combat before, faced dangerous situations. But this was different. The Veshral produced a fear that bypassed rational thought and hit directly at the nervous system. Minji felt it like waves of ice through her body. Her breathing was fast. Her muscles were tight. Every instinct screamed at her to run, hide, freeze. But she'd spent her whole childhood learning to manage fear. Growing up on Earth meant learning that predators could smell fear, that freezing got you killed, that panic made you prey. She took slow, deliberate breaths, focused on facts instead of feelings. The Veshral was dangerous, yes, but it was also just an animal, a very deadly, very intelligent animal, but still bound by biology and physics. It could be understood. And things that could be understood could be survived. The monitors showed the Veshral entering their corridor. It moved slower now, more carefully. It knew it was close. It's found us, Commander Sivak said. Everyone stay quiet. Maybe it will pass by. But Minji knew better. She'd seen how it hunted. It wouldn't pass by. It would investigate every possible hiding spot until it found them. The creature stopped outside their door. Through the security feed, they watched it examine the entrance. Its sensory organs scanned the metal. Its bladed limbs touched the surface gently, almost delicately. Then it started cutting. The reinforced alloy that was supposed to stop anything began to part like soft clay under its blades. The Veshral didn't rush. It worked methodically, creating an opening. How long? Minji asked. Commander Sivak checked his scanner. 30 minutes. Maybe less. And backup is 7 hours away. Yes. Taeyang let out a strangled sound. We're dead. We're all dead. No. Commander Sivak stood up, checking his weapon. I'll buy you time. There are maintenance tunnels behind this room. I'll lure it away and you run for the docking bay. That's suicide, Minji said. It's our only chance. I'm trained for this. You're students. Your lives are worth more than mine. Commander. That's an order. He looked at all of them. When I open this door, you run. Don't look back. Don't stop. Just run. Minji watched him prepare. He was brave, she could see that. Willing to die for them. But he was also terrified. The fear response was hitting him as hard as anyone else. His hand shook as he loaded his weapon. His breathing was too fast. He wouldn't last 30 seconds against the Veshral. Not in his current state. The creature would kill him and then continue hunting the students. His sacrifice would achieve nothing. She thought about Earth, about the humans who'd survived when everything else wanted them dead. They'd survived not because they were the strongest or the fastest. They'd survived because they were stubborn. Because they refused to give up. Because when faced with something impossible, they tried anyway. Commander Sivak, Minji said quietly, don't open that door. This isn't a discussion, I know. But please listen to me for 1 minute. She stood up and walked to the security feed. That thing out there is from a Class 14 death world. More extreme than Earth, it's an apex predator that evolved in the worst conditions possible. I know all this. But here's what you don't know. Humans evolved on a Class 12 death world. We're not as physically strong as the Veshral. We're not as fast. But we survived our planet by being adaptable and stubborn, by refusing to give up even when we should. And what's your point? Minji looked at the door, watching the Veshral's progress. 20 minutes left, maybe less. My point is that the fear response that's affecting all of you, it's not hitting me as hard. Humans evolved alongside predators that would make most species collapse in terror. We learned to function while afraid. You want to fight it? Commander Sivak said in disbelief. You're a student. You're unarmed. That thing has killed 23 trained soldiers. I don't want to fight it, but I think I can buy more time than you can, because it expects prey to freeze or run. It doesn't expect prey to think. She turned to face him. Let me try. If it doesn't work, you do your plan. But at least give me a chance. The room was silent except for the sound of the Veshral cutting through the door. Everyone stared at Minji like she'd lost her mind. Maybe she had, but doing nothing meant dying, and she'd rather die trying than die hiding. Commander Sivak studied her face. He saw no bravado there, no false courage, just determination and the cold calculation of someone who'd learned to assess threats early in alley. 15 minutes became 10. 10 became 5. The Veshral's blades carved through the reinforced door with patient precision. Through the security monitors, Minji watched its progress. The creature seemed to know exactly where to cut for maximum structural weakness. Around her, the other students had deteriorated badly. The fear response was overwhelming them completely now. Hyun lay on the floor, his exoskeleton locked solid. He couldn't move even if he wanted to. The Feneth students remained unconscious. Taeyang had curled into a ball in the corner, his breathing mask fogging with rapid breaths. Commander Sivak kept checking his weapon, but his hands shook so badly he could barely hold it. The biological fear was affecting him worse than he'd admitted. His species came from a savanna world with clear sight lines. They evolved to fight visible threats with pack tactics. This was different. This was a nightmare that rendered all his training useless. Minji, Hyun whispered from the floor. Why aren't you more scared? Oh, I'm terrified, she said honestly. My heart is racing. My hands are shaking. Every instinct is telling me to run. Then how are you still thinking clearly? Because freezing gets you killed on Earth. We learn to carry fear instead of letting it paralyze us. She knelt down next to him. My ancestors hunted animals bigger and stronger than them. They ran from predators faster than any human. They survived by being smart when everything else was stronger. That's what I'm going to do now. Minji stood and surveyed the classroom. It was designed as a shelter, which meant limited resources. But humans had learned to work with limited resources. They'd survived ice ages with nothing but rocks and sticks. She found a storage locker and opened it. Inside were basic maintenance tools. A pry bar that could work as a spear shaft. Cable that could become a net. Chemical supplies for cleaning that, properly mixed, could burn. Her mind raced through possibilities. "What are you doing?" Commander Sivak asked. "Making weapons." Minji pulled out the pry bar and tested its weight. "Humans aren't the strongest species. We're not the fastest. But we learned to use tools better than anyone else. That thing will tear you apart. Maybe. But I'm going to make it work for the kill." She found a sharp maintenance blade and began securing it to the end of the pry bar with cable. Her hands moved with practiced efficiency. Muscle memory from camping trips with her father, survival training at school, the unconscious knowledge of how to make something deadly from nothing. The other students watched in horrified fascination. This soft-looking human girl was building weapons like she'd done it before. Like it was natural, Minji found the chemical supplies and mixed 2 cleaning agents together in a metal container. The mixture began to smoke. "This will burn hot and bright. The Veshral has never seen fire before. Space stations don't use it. It might hesitate." "Might?" Taeyang's voice was shrill. "Your plan is might hesitate? Better than nothing." Minji pulled off her heavy academy jacket. Underneath, she wore a simple shirt. Her arms were lean but muscular, not bodybuilder strong, but the kind of strength that came from practical use. She moved the jacket aside and stretched her shoulders. "Why are you taking off your jacket?" Hyun asked. "Weight. Speed. On Earth, humans are endurance hunters. We're built to move for hours to outlast our prey. Heavy clothing slows that down." She picked up her makeshift spear and tested its balance. "The Veshral is faster in a sprint. But humans don't fight with sprints. We fight with endurance." Commander Sivak stared at her. "You've really thought about this?" "I've been thinking about how to survive dangerous things my whole life. It's what humans do." Minji pulled out some cable and created a simple net. "We throw things. Did you know that? Most species can't throw accurately. But humans evolved incredible hand-eye coordination. We can hit targets while moving, compensate for wind and distance, throw with lethal force. Against a Veshral, probably not lethal, but distracting." She looked at the door. The Veshral was almost through. 3 minutes left. Maybe 2. I need everyone who can move to get ready. When it comes through, I'll engage it. You run for the maintenance tunnels." "I can't let you do this," Commander Sivak said. "You can't stop me either. Look at yourself, Commander. You're a trained warrior and you can barely hold your weapon. The fear response is affecting you too badly, but I'm from Earth. I grew up with fear as a constant companion. It doesn't shut me down the same way." She was right, and he knew it. The biological fear that the Veshral produced was hitting him like a physical weight. His breathing was shallow. His vision was narrowing. Combat training meant nothing when your nervous system was screaming in primal terror. "If you don't make it," he started, "tell my parents I tried." Minji smiled, though it didn't reach her eyes. Tell them their daughter didn't freeze. The door gave way. The metal shrieked and fell inward, and the Veshral entered. Up close, it was even worse than on the monitors. 3 meters of armored death moving with liquid grace. Its sensory organs fixed on the students immediately. The fear response intensified, a wave of pure terror that hit everyone in the room. Students screamed. Taeyang pressed himself against the wall, unable to even run. Commander Sivak raised his weapon, but his hands shook so badly he couldn't aim. The Veshral released a sound. Not quite a roar, but a low vibration that resonated in the bones. A challenge. A promise of death. Every species-based instinct in the room screamed the same thing. Freeze. You are prey. There is no escape. Submit. Everyone froze. Except Minji. She stepped forward, placing herself between the Veshral and the students. She held her makeshift spear ready and did something that made Commander Sivak's blood run cold. She looked directly at the Veshral and didn't look away. In Predator language across countless worlds, this meant one thing. I see you, and I'm not backing down. The Veshral stopped. For the first time in its hunting life, prey was doing something unexpected. Prey didn't challenge. Prey ran or froze or submitted. This small creature was doing none of those things. Its sensory organs focused on Minji, analyzing her. It could sense the fear in her body, the rapid heartbeat, the adrenaline. But it could also sense something else. Intent, aggression, a predator's awareness in what should be prey. Minji shifted her stance. Her father had taught her basic self-defense. Nothing fancy, just practical fighting for survival. Feet apart for balance. knees slightly bent for mobility, spear held ready to thrust or block. "Come on then," she said quietly. Her voice shook but didn't break. "You want to eat? You're going to have to earn it." The Veshral tilted its head. This was wrong. Prey didn't speak challenges. Prey didn't stand ready to fight. Something in its ancient predator brain recognized the stance of another apex species. This wasn't prey. This was competition. But the Veshral was confident in its superiority. It had killed hundreds of creatures. This small, soft thing would be no different. It moved forward, blades ready. Minji threw the metal container. Her aim was perfect, as accurate as any human throwing a baseball. The container hit the Veshral's sensory cluster and exploded in flame. Chemical fire burning hot and bright. The Veshral recoiled. Fire! It had never experienced fire. The burning sensation on its sensory organs sent confusing signals through its nervous system. Pain. Actual pain from prey? Minji didn't wait. She grabbed more items from the floor and threw them, not to damage but to distract. A chair, a data pad, anything to disrupt the creature's hunting pattern. Each throw was accurate, hitting sensory organs or joints. The Veshral adapted quickly. It was intelligent. One trick wouldn't work twice. It circled, looking for an opening. Its blades tested the air between them. Behind Minji, Commander Sivak finally broke through his paralysis enough to act. Everyone moved now. Maintenance tunnels. Students stumbled toward the back of the room. Hyun's exoskeleton unlocked enough for him to crawl. Taeyang was pulled along by other students. They fled while the Veshral's attention was on Minji. The creature noticed the movement and tried to pursue. Minji thrust her spear at it, forcing it to dodge. "You want them? You go through me first." The Veshral's attention snapped back to her. This prey was actively interfering with its hunt. Unacceptable. It would kill this one first, then pursue the others. It struck with blinding speed. Blades slashed toward Minji's chest. She dropped and rolled, barely avoiding the attack. The spear came up in defense, metal screeching against the Veshral's armor. The creature was faster, stronger, better armed. But Minji had one advantage. She could think tactically while terrified. The Veshral hunted by instinct, enhanced by intelligence. Minji fought with pure, desperate calculation. She used the classroom furniture, putting obstacles between them. Flipped tables for barriers, threw chairs to disrupt its movement. Humans weren't ambush predators or pursuit predators. They were persistence hunters who won through endurance and strategy. The Veshral slashed at her again. This time its blade caught her arm, cutting deep. Pain exploded through her shoulder. But humans had high pain tolerance. Evolution had taught them to keep functioning when injured. Minji grabbed the blade with her other hand. Blood poured from her palm, but she held on, using the grip strength that evolved for climbing. She redirected the blade into a table leg, jamming it temporarily. The Veshral pulled free easily, but those 2 seconds let Minji create distance. She was bleeding badly now. Minji's laugh echoed in the ruined classroom. Blood spread beneath her, warm and sticky. The wounds in her arm and side burned like fire. But she was still alive, still conscious, and that was more than the Veshral expected. The creature stood over her, sensory organs focused on this impossible prey. Its instincts screamed contradictions. The prey was wounded, bleeding, defeated, but it was laughing. No prey animal had ever laughed at it before. Through the doorway, Minji could see the security monitors still functioning. She saw Commander Sivak and the students making their way through the maintenance tunnels. They were moving slowly, fear still affecting them badly, but they were moving. She'd bought them time. The Veshral raised its blade for the killing strike. Minji met its gaze again, not looking away. Even now, bleeding out, she refused to show submission. "You're amazing," she told it. "Fastest thing I've ever seen." "Stronger than anything on Earth, perfect predator." She coughed, tasting blood. "But you made one mistake." The Veshral paused. It was intelligent enough to recognize speech, even if it couldn't understand the words. Something in its ancient brain wanted to know what this dying prey was saying. "You thought I was prey," Minji continued. "But humans aren't prey. We're competition. We just look like we should be prey." She pushed herself up on one elbow, still meeting its gaze. "My species killed every predator that tried to eat us, wolves, bears, big cats. We didn't do it by being stronger. We did it by refusing to die quietly." Blood loss was making her dizzy. She could feel her body starting to shut down. Human physiology was incredible at survival, but it had limits. She'd pushed past those limits already. The Veshral's blade came down. but not for the kill. It touched her shoulder gently, almost curiously. The creature tilted its head, studying her with what might have been respect, or confusion, or something else entirely. Then it did something impossible. It stepped back. Not far, but enough to give her space. Its posture shifted from aggressive hunter to something else. Assessment, evaluation. Minji struggled to understand through the pain and blood loss. The Veshral wasn't killing her. Why? She was helpless now, completely at its mercy. Through the haze, she remembered something from Professor Dalvik's class. Apex predators on death worlds developed complex social hierarchies. They recognized strength in others. Not just physical strength, but the kind of strength that came from refusing to submit. You see it now, don't you? Minji whispered. I'm not from a safe world. I'm from a place like yours. A place that tries to kill everything. We're the same, you and me. Just different responses to the same problem. The Veshral made a sound. Not the hunting vibration from before, but something else. A trill that might have been acknowledgement. Its blades folded against its body, the aggressive stance fading. I don't want to fight you, Minji said. I never did. You were trapped here, studied like an animal, I get it. You just wanted to be free. The creature moved closer again, and Minji tensed. But it didn't attack. Instead, it examined her wounds with its sensory organs. Curious. Clinical. The way a researcher might study an interesting specimen. Then it turned and left. Just walked out of the classroom and disappeared into the station's corridors. It left her alive. Minji lay there stunned and bleeding. She'd faced down a threat level 10 predator and survived. Not by killing it, not by defeating it, but by making it see her as something other than prey. Her communicator crackled. Commander Sivak's voice came through, weak but determined. Minji, can you hear me? We're at the docking bay. The Veshral. It's not following us. What happened? I think I made a friend, Minji said, then passed out. She woke in the medical bay. White lights. Clean smells. The soft beeping of monitors. For a moment she thought she'd died, and this was whatever came after. Then pain reminded her she was very much alive. She's awake, someone said. Commander Sivak appeared in her vision, his scarred face showing relief. Easy, don't try to move yet. You lost a lot of blood. Minji's throat was dry. The others? All safe. Thanks to you. He helped her sip some water. The rescue team arrived 2 hours after you collapsed. They found the Veshral in the station's waste recycling section. It was trying to find a way out, not hunting. Did they kill it? They tried. 3 teams went in with full tactical gear. The Veshral fought back, but... Commander Sivak paused. It was retreating, not attacking. They realized it was trying to escape, not kill. So they held fire. What happens now? That's complicated. The peacekeepers want to lock it up again. But I sent a report about what happened, about how you communicated with it. He pulled up a chair. I've been a soldier for 30 years. I've fought dangerous creatures across a dozen worlds, but I've never seen anything like what you did. I just didn't want to die. No, you did more than survive. You made an apex predator see you as an equal. Do you understand how impossible that is? He shook his head. Humans. I've heard the stories about Death Worlders, but I never really understood until now. The door opened and Hyun rushed in, followed by several other students. Even Taeyang was there, looking uncomfortable. Minji. Hyun's voice was high with emotion. We thought, when you didn't follow us, we thought the worst. I'm okay, mostly. She tried to sit up and immediately regretted it. Pain shot through her side. Taeyang stepped forward. I owe you an apology. Actually, I owe you my life. We all do. His voice was quiet, humble. I said terrible things about humans. About you. I was wrong. You were scared. Everyone's scared of things they don't understand. No, it was more than that. It was prejudice. He looked at his feet. I thought coming from a safe world made my species superior. But when danger came, I froze. I was useless. And you, from your primitive death world, saved us all. One of the Feneth students approached timidly. Is it true? Did the Veshral really let you live? Yeah, I think it recognized something in me. We're both from worlds that tried to kill us. We both survived by being stubborn. Minji smiled despite the pain. Turns out apex predators have more in common than you'd think. Over the next few days, the story spread through the academy and beyond. The human girl who faced down a Veshral and survived. The Death Worlder who laughed at death. The student who changed how the galaxy viewed apex predators. Medical staff were amazed by her recovery. Human healing was faster than expected. The immune system aggressively fighting infection, pain tolerance allowing function before full healing. Everything about human biology was designed for survival in hostile conditions. Visitors came constantly, professors wanting to study what happened, students wanting to hear the story firsthand, researchers asking questions about Earth and human evolution. Commander Sivak visited every day. On the third day, he brought news. The Galactic Council has made a decision about the Veshral. They're not going to keep it imprisoned. What will they do with it? Transport it to an uninhabited world with similar conditions to its home planet. Let it live free, he smiled. Your idea, actually. You said it wasn't a monster, just a creature trapped in an unnatural environment. They agreed. Really? The incident forced them to reconsider how we treat apex predators from death worlds. Containment creates aggression. The Veshral wasn't naturally violent to everything. It was reacting to imprisonment. He pulled up a data display. We reviewed all the incidents. Every time it killed, it was defending itself or trying to escape. It never hunted when it wasn't threatened. So I was right. It just wanted to survive. Like you. Commander Sivak stood. I have something else to tell you. The Galactic Peacekeepers have extended an offer. When you finish at the Academy, they want you in their training program. Early admission, full scholarship. Minji stared at him. Why? Because you have something most species don't. You understand how to survive real danger. Not theoretical danger from textbooks, but actual life or death situations. He handed her a data chip. Think about it. No pressure. But we could use someone who thinks like you do. After he left, Hyun sat with her. Are you going to accept? I don't know, maybe. Minji looked out the window at the stars. I came here to prove humans belong in galactic society. I think I did that. But I also proved something else. What? That being from a death world doesn't make you a monster. It makes you a survivor, and survivors understand things that safe world species don't. She smiled at her friend. We understand that sometimes the scariest looking things are just trying to live, same as everyone else. Hyun was quiet for a moment. I'm glad you're my friend, Minji, and I'm sorry I was so scared of you at first. You weren't scared of me. You were scared of what I represented. The unknown. The dangerous. She squeezed his hand gently. But now you know. Humans might be from a scary world, but we're not scary people. We just learned different lessons than you did. What lessons? That fear doesn't have to control you. That surviving is about adapting, not just being strong. And that sometimes the best way to deal with a predator is to show it you're a predator too. Minji laughed softly. Earth taught us that everything wants to kill you. The lesson was, don't let it. Outside her window, a transport ship was preparing to launch. Inside it was the Veshral, sedated for travel, heading to a new world where it could live naturally. No cages, no containment fields, just freedom. Minji watched it go and felt satisfaction. She'd saved the students, yes. But she'd also saved the Kree. 2 weeks passed before Minji was cleared to return to regular classes. The wounds had healed remarkably fast, leaving only pale scars on her arm and side. The medical staff documented everything, fascinated by human healing capabilities, rapid cell regeneration, aggressive immune response, high collagen production. Her body treated severe trauma as just another problem to solve. Walking through the academy corridors felt different now. Students no longer avoided her out of fear alone. Now there was something else in their eyes. Respect, curiosity, sometimes even admiration. A group of Fenith students actually approached her in the commons. Excuse us, one said nervously. We wanted to thank you for saving us. We're sorry we were so scared of you before. It's okay, Minji said gently. I understand. I'm from a world you can't imagine. It makes sense that you'd be nervous. But you risked your life for us, even after how we treated you. The Fenith's large eyes glistened. That was very brave. After they left, Hyun joined her at a table. He moved more confidently now, his exoskeleton no longer locked up with constant anxiety around her. You're famous. You know that, right? There are news articles about you across half the galaxy. I know. Professor Dalvik showed me. Minji pulled out her datapad. The headlines were overwhelming. Human student faces apex predator. Death Worlder saves classmates. New understanding of Class 12 species. Some articles were positive, celebrating her courage. Others were fearful, claiming she proved how dangerous humans were. A few suggested that Deathworlders should still be restricted from civilized space. "The galaxy doesn't know what to make of you," Hyun said. "They don't know what to make of humans in general." Minji scrolled through comments. Half think we're heroes. Half think we're dangerous. Everyone agrees we're scary. Are they wrong? Minji thought about it. No, humans are scary. Earth made us that way. But scary doesn't mean evil. It just means we survived something most species couldn't. Taeyang approached their table, moving slowly. Since the incident, he'd been quieter, more thoughtful. "Can I sit with you?" Minji gestured to an empty chair. "Of course." He sat down, his breathing mask bubbling softly. "I've been doing research. About Earth, about human evolution." He pulled up his datapad. "Your planet is insane. Do you know that your species hunted animals to extinction just for food? Massive creatures that should have been impossible to kill? Mammoths, megafauna. Yeah. How? You're not particularly strong or fast compared to those animals. Persistence hunting. Humans can run for hours in heat that would kill most predators. We'd chase an animal until it collapsed from exhaustion, then kill it with simple weapons." Minji shrugged. "We're not built for the quick kill. We're built to never give up." Taeyang was quiet. "I thought my species was advanced because we built underwater cities and created complex mathematics. But we never had to fight for survival like you did. Our world was kind to us. That's not a bad thing. No. But it means we missed something important. We never learned what you learned." He looked at her directly. "I called you primitive. But humans aren't primitive. You're specialized, survival specialists." Over the following weeks, Minji noticed the academy changing. The administration added new courses about Deathworld species and their unique adaptations. Professor Dalvik asked her to give a guest lecture on human survival strategies. She stood in front of a packed lecture hall, every seat filled with curious students. "I'm not an expert," she began. "I'm just someone from Earth, but I can tell you what growing up there taught me." She pulled up images of Earth, beautiful oceans, towering mountains, dense forests. "This looks peaceful, right? But Earth is trying to kill you constantly. The weather can freeze or cook you. The animals see you as food. The plants are often poisonous. Even the water contains things that will make you sick." A Valerian student raised a thin arm. "How did your species survive?" "By being adaptable. Humans can live in deserts or Arctic regions. We can eat almost anything. We can learn and change faster than evolution alone would allow." She showed images of human technology. "We didn't wait for biology to adapt us. We created tools to adapt the environment instead." "But the Veshral," another student said. "How did you face it? How did you overcome the fear response?" "I didn't overcome it. I felt it completely. I was terrified." Minji paused. "But Earth taught me that being scared doesn't mean you stop thinking. Fear is information, not a command. It tells you there's danger, but you still choose how to respond." "That's insane," a Kixian student said. "Fear exists to protect us. Ignoring it leads to death." "I didn't ignore it. I used it. Fear makes you alert, focused, fast. It's only bad if it paralyzes you." Minji pulled up a video of a human running from a bear. "This is a human encountering a predator. See how they don't freeze? They run, climb, use tools, shout to scare it away. They're afraid, but they're also acting." The lecture went on for 2 hours. Students asked endless questions about Earth, about human evolution, about how fear worked differently for Deathworld species. Some questions were scientific. Others were personal. "Do you miss Earth?" a Feneth student asked softly. "Every day. It's home. But I also understand why other species find it horrifying." Minji smiled. "My little brother keeps sending me messages about his camping trips. He thinks it's funny to tell me about the snakes and spiders he finds. He doesn't understand that to most species here, those stories sound like nightmare fuel." After the lecture, several professors approached her. "Have you considered a career in xenobiology?" One asked. "Your perspective is unique. You understand survival in ways we can't teach." "I'm still thinking about what comes next," Minji said. "The peacekeepers offered me a position. But I'm also interested in research." "You could do both," another professor suggested. "Field research with peacekeeper protection. Study dangerous species in their natural habitats." The idea appealed to her. Learning about other death worlds. Understanding how different species adapted to survive. She could be a bridge between safe world scientists who had the theory and death world experience that provided the practice. That evening, She sat in the observation deck with Hyun and several other students who'd become friends. The group had grown since the incident. Students who'd been too afraid to approach her before now sought her out. "I have a question," a Valerian named Jiwon said. "The Veshral respected you because you showed no submission. But how did you know to do that? How did you know it would work?" "I didn't know it would work. I just knew freezing definitely wouldn't." Minji looked out at the stars. Predators on Earth respect two things: strength and refusal to be prey. I didn't have strength, so I showed refusal instead. "That's incredibly risky," Jiwon said. "Everything about being human is risky. We're persistence hunters on a planet where everything is stronger than us. We succeeded through risk-taking and stubbornness," she laughed. "My grandmother used to say, humans are the species that looked at fire and said, let's use that. We're not smart enough to know when something's impossible." "Is that why you laughed?" Hyun asked. "When you were wounded and the Veshral was about to kill you?" "Partly, but also because the situation was absurd. Here I was, a student facing the galaxy's most dangerous predator with a makeshift spear. If I was going to die, I might as well find the humor in it." "Humans are very strange," Taeyang said, but he was smiling. A message came through on Minji's communicator. Commander Sivak wanted to see her. She excused herself and made her way to the military section of the station. Sivak was in his office reviewing tactical displays. "Minji, come in. I have news about the Veshral. Is it okay?" "More than okay. We released it on an uninhabited Class 14 world 3 days ago. The planet has conditions similar to its home world. Dangerous fauna, extreme weather, everything it needs." He pulled up a video feed. The screen showed the Veshral emerging from a transport ship onto a hostile world. For a moment it stood still, sensory organs taking in its surroundings. Then it moved with obvious purpose into the jungle. It looked content. "We're monitoring it from orbit. So far it's hunting native species and establishing territory. It's thriving." Commander Sivak turned to her. "This is because of you. You proved it wasn't a mindless killer, just a survivor from a harsh world. Like humans. Exactly like humans." He sat back. "Which brings me to why I asked you here. The Galactic Council is forming a new division within the Peacekeepers. Deathworld specialists. Officers trained to understand and communicate with species from high-threat environments. And you want me to join? Not just join. Help create it. You'd be training officers, developing protocols, serving as a consultant." He handed her a data chip. "This is the formal offer. Full details, compensation, everything. Take your time deciding." Minji held the chip, feeling its weight. A career path opening up because she'd refused to die quietly. Because she'd shown the galaxy that Deathworlders weren't monsters. "Can I ask you something, Commander? Honestly?" "Of course. Do you still fear humans? After everything you've seen?" Sivak was quiet for a long moment. "Yes, but it's different now. Before I feared humans because I didn't understand them. Now I fear humans because I do understand them. Your species looks at impossible situations and tries anyway. You face things that should kill you and find ways to survive. That's terrifying, but 3 months after the incident, the Academy held a formal assembly. The Grand Hall was packed with students from hundreds of species, all gathered to hear the Galactic Council's announcement about new protocols for Deathworld species. Minji sat in the front row with Hyun, Taeyang, and the other students who'd been at Research Station Kelos 9. They'd become a tight group, bonded by shared trauma and survival. Even Taeyang, who'd once mocked her relentlessly, now defended her against critics. Ambassador Kelrian of the Galactic Council took the podium. She was a thornback like Professor Dalvik, ancient and respected. The incident at Kelos 9 forced us to reconsider our understanding of Deathworld species. For too long, we've treated them as threats to be contained rather than beings to be understood. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Some species still believed Deathworlders were dangerous. Others had started to see them differently. Student Minji demonstrated something we'd forgotten. Kelrian continued. That survival instincts developed on harsh worlds aren't signs of primitive aggression. They're signs of advanced adaptation. Her actions saved 20 students and taught us that fear of the unknown creates more danger than understanding ever could. The ambassador looked directly at Minji. Therefore, the Council is implementing new policies. Deathworld species will no longer face automatic restrictions. Each individual will be evaluated on their merits, not their planet's classification. We're also establishing exchange programs to help safe world species understand death world perspectives, and vice versa. Applause filled the hall, though not everyone joined in. Change was slow, especially when it challenged long-held fears. After the assembly, Minji was surrounded by reporters and students asking questions. She answered patiently, explaining that humans weren't special, just adapted differently, that Earth's dangers had taught her species valuable lessons about survival and cooperation. "But aren't you afraid?" a young Feneth reporter asked. "Living among species that could hurt you? Being the only human here?" "I'm always a little afraid," Minji admitted. "But fear isn't bad. It keeps you alert. The question is whether fear controls you or informs you." Professor Dalvik approached after the crowd dispersed. "Walk with me." They moved through the station's gardens, an area with adjustable atmosphere for different species. The section they entered was set to Earth normal, heavy gravity and high oxygen. Most students avoided it, but Minji relaxed in the familiar conditions. "You've changed the academy," Dalvik said. "Do you realize that?" "I just survived. Anyone would have done the same." "No. Most beings would have frozen or died. You did something unprecedented." He gestured to the gardens around them. 5 new Death World students have applied since your story spread. Species that would never have considered the academy before. You showed them they belong here. Minji hadn't thought about that. She'd been focused on her own recovery and studies, not on the broader impact. That's good, isn't it? Very good. Diversity makes us stronger. Different perspectives, different survival strategies, different ways of thinking. Dalvik stopped by a viewing window. But it also means more responsibility for you. Those students will look to you as an example. I'm not special. I'm just one person. You're the first human to attend this academy. Whether you want it or not, you represent your entire species here. He turned to face her. How does that feel? Minji considered the question honestly. Heavy, scary, but also important. If I can help other Death Worlders feel welcome here, then the fear and pain were worth something. Over the next few weeks, the new Death World students arrived. A Karathi from a volcanic world where survival meant constant adaptation to changing temperatures. A Velix from a planet covered in aggressive plant life that hunted anything that moved. A Draenei from a high-gravity water world with predators in every depth. Each of them faced the same suspicious looks Minji had endured. The same whispered conversations. The same fear-based isolation. But now there was a difference. Minji and her friends actively welcomed them. She met the Karathi student whose name was Sayok in the commons. He sat alone, his heat-resistant skin making him look dangerous to species from cooler worlds. Minji sat down across from him. "Hi, I'm Minji, from Earth." Sayok's expression showed surprise. "The human who faced the Veshral. Everyone knows about you. Just someone who got lucky. How are you adjusting?" "It's hard. Everyone's afraid of me. They think I'll lose my temper and burn something." His voice carried frustration. "My planet has active volcanoes and lava flows. We learned to be calm, not aggressive. But they don't see that." "I know. They were the same with me," Minji smiled. "Give them time. Show them who you are, not what they expect. It gets better." Hyun joined them along with Taeyang and several others. Soon the table was full of students from various species, all talking and laughing together. Sayok looked around in amazement. "I didn't think this was possible." "Neither did I," Minji admitted. "But scary things become less scary when you understand them. That works both ways." The semester continued. Minji threw herself into her studies, particularly xenobiology and threat assessment. She understood these subjects in ways that surprised her professors. She could look at a species' adaptations and immediately understand what environmental pressures created them. One day, Professor Dalvik assigned a challenging project. "I want you to analyze an unknown species and determine what kind of world it evolved on, based solely on its biological features." The other students struggled with the abstract thinking required. But Minji found it natural. She looked at the claws and immediately thought about what they'd need to grip. She examined the eyes and calculated what kind of light environment would produce that structure. She studied the muscular system and determined the gravity requirements. Class 9 Death World, she concluded. Probably forested with strong winds. Predators both aerial and ground-based. Seasonal climate extremes. Professor Dalvik's expression showed approval. Correct on every detail. "How did you know?" "Because I grew up reading survival guides about Earth's environments." "You learn to see how every adaptation is a response to specific pressures." She pointed to the species data. This is just like animals in Earth's rainforests. Everything about them says constant danger from multiple directions. After class, several students approached her for help with their projects. Minji found herself becoming an unofficial tutor, helping Safe World students understand Death World logic. It's like learning a new language, a Feneth student named Nari said. You see threats everywhere, even in things that look safe. Because on Death Worlds, things that look safe often aren't, Minji explained. Beautiful flowers can be poisonous. Calm water can hide predators. Sunny days can turn into deadly storms in minutes. You learn not to trust appearances. That sounds exhausting. It is, but it also makes you resourceful. You learn to prepare for worst-case scenarios, which means you're rarely caught completely off guard. Commander Sivak visited the academy again, this time with a proposal. The Peacekeepers are running a training exercise in 2 months, a simulated survival scenario on an uninhabited moon. I'd like you to participate. As a student, as a consultant. The teams will include officers from Safe World species who need to understand Death World survival strategies. He pulled up mission details. The moon has hostile conditions, limited resources, simulated dangers. The teams need to survive for 1 week while completing objectives. You want me to teach them? I want you to show them how Death World thinking works. Not through lectures, but through practice. Sivak smiled slightly. They're good officers, well-trained, but they've never faced real survival situations. You have, Minji agreed. The training exercise would take her away from the academy for 2 weeks, but Professor Dalvik approved it as practical fieldwork. The night before she left, her friends threw a small gathering in her quarters. Hyun brought food from his homeworld, carefully selected to be safe for human consumption. Taeyang brought entertainment recordings. Other students brought gifts and well wishes. You're coming back, right? Nari asked nervously. You're not leaving permanently? Of course I'm coming back. This is just training. Minji looked around at the gathered students. A few months ago, she'd been completely alone here. Now she had friends from a dozen different species, all of whom had learned to see past their initial fears. We'll miss you, Hyun said. The academy is better with you here. It's better with all of us here. Every species brings something valuable. She raised her drink. To understanding, and to finding courage when we're afraid. They echoed the toast. As the evening continued, Minji realized something important. She'd come to the academy hoping to prove that humans belonged in galactic society. She'd succeeded at that, but she'd also discovered something else. It wasn't just about humans belonging. It was about creating space for everyone, regardless of where they came from. Safe World species and Death World species both had value. Fear and courage both had their place. The galaxy was big enough for all of them. The next morning, she boarded a transport to the training moon. Commander Sivak and 3 teams of Peacekeeper officers were already there. They looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. This is Minji, Sivak introduced her. She'll be accompanying you on this exercise. Her role is to observe and advise, not to lead. But I suggest you listen to her in... It wasn't just about humans belonging. It was about creating space for everyone, regardless of where they came from. Safe World species and Death World species both had value. Fear and courage both had their place. The galaxy was big enough for all of them. The next morning, she boarded a transport to the training moon. Commander Sivak and 3 teams of Peacekeeper officers were already there. They looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and uncertainty. This is Minji, Sivak introduced her. She'll be accompanying you on this exercise. Her role is to observe and advise, not to lead. But I suggest you listen to her in...